Oh, I didn't see it there. It's Tom Senner, that's me, that is. And that's a lifeboat behind me, and another lifeboat. But I've come to Fleetwood. Come on a bit of a day out again, as you do, TE on these day outs. But over there behind me, as I can see TE's home actually. Well, there's firstly is Heysham Power Plant over there, and just a bit lower than Heysham Power Plant is Middleton Sands, and then there'll be Sunderland Point, and then up past the Heysham Power Plant there'll be Morecambe, and then going up the Carford. You can't quite see Carford because it's sort of in that little gully at the top, but going across you can sort of see Silverdale, the hills at Silverdale on Arnside, and then you can see Grange, and then panning round further you can see, I think you can see Langdales in the mountains of the Lake District, and then if you go right down the coast you can see Blackcomb, what's TE's original home up Blackcomb, well the other side of Blackcomb anyway, and that little town on the end of Blackcomb, sort of sitting out on its own little island, is Barrow, and then behind Barrow is Millom. So it's a whole panorama shot. I suppose if you can look right past there behind these buildings, you can see further into Lancashire. But we're here today. Just behind me is it North Euston Hotel, and it's quite a famous hotel. And I can see the trams up there. What we'll show you in a minute. And but I've come here actually to find a lost engine shed. What not many people know about, because it's not really, it's quite unique, I should say. There is a lost engine shed here, what's quite famous, what they're trying to reopen up to it, what isn't there anymore. I might show you in a bit, but this one's more unique in the way it I can't really spoil it, but the way it runs, I should say. But we'll go and find it, and I think it's that way. Yeah, I think it's that way, but I'm going to go this way. Tram that were actually not really that modern anyway. They've been here about 10 years now, and they've been here quite a long time. But that runs from here, Fleetwood, all the way down Blackpool coast to Stargate. You know, it goes quite a long way. You get a good route in, and as I probably said a few videos ago, you can get a Rover ticket and jump on as many trams as you want. David, one for you, that is, one for you. think this is the lost engine shed of Fleetwood, what not many people know about. And why they don't know about it is it's narrow gauge, and you know, T here loves a narrow gauge. He was brought up on the Ravenglass and Estelle Railway, so you know, I love anything narrow gauge. And in this very building here, and it looks actually like it's had another door at some point here. You can see where it's been bricked up. In here, there used to be, I don't know if I think it was a 15 or a 12-inch narrow gauge railway in there. Well, that was a shed, I should say. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about two other lost lines. One what was built in the 1950s, and another one what was built in 75 to 82. So in this video, I'd be talking about one line, and then I'd be going and talking about the other line. So try not to get mixed up, but there's a definite difference between each track in the gauge and the era. So the engines what was stabled in there, and probably a few coaches or tucked away in there, were a big American style engine, a Rio Grande, or as known as a 7-lamb engine. And they're the same people who made the Sheila Vesta, what's on the Ravenglass and Estelle Rail, where T is from. So it's all good connections here. And it used to run along this bank here, and me and the cameraman will just have a nosy. And there's a bit of, I think there's a few metal sleepers or something to do with the points still in this banking. And but please do comment below, because I don't know if is it a 15 or is it a 12-inch. I don't know. I can't really remember, but that's where it was stabled in there, and it's still, I don't know what's in there now or who owns it. But it went because I think they had vandals, and once vandals appear and stuff gets nicked and all the rest of it, you can't keep something that expensive going, because you know, it's even for narrow gauge railway, it's a bit of kit, and it's a lot of cash, you know, to be hanging around in there. And it only takes one magpie of a young lad, or even a young girl, you know, or the whole spectrum, to go, oh, there's a bit of cash in there, or I might, that wall there is good, I could spray on that, and you know, and it all goes downhill. And that's pretty much what happened there, really, and that's why it's all overgrown like this. And you'd never know that there's a lost small engine shed in Fleetwood. So if you want to find this fine bit of historic building and track bed, just from main sort of tram station in Fleetwood, right on front there, North Euston Hotel, you come out up here, up the coast, and you come past the pavilion behind me there. There's a few car parks what you can park in, or if you like a bit of van life, there's motorhome parking in here, what's all good stuff, you might get a van. Anyway, I'm digressing. And you come up and you find this wonderful bit of building here, I don't know what they're doing with it anymore, but it's still standing. Still here. Maybe one day someone put a bit more money in and we can secure it a bit more, and they might have a narrow gauge again, but there might not be enough trade, I don't know. That's all linked up to, really, if the big railway gets instated back to Fleetwood again, and a bit more tourism comes into Fleetwood, you might be able to enough money around to reopen this and get it paid and get it secure. I mean, you never know. So I haven't walked the whole of the bed, but I had a bit of a nosy about with the cameraman, and there is this bit of metalwork here with some bolts in here. So I don't know if are these sleepers and the tracks went in there, or you know, or is it some point gear? Was there points there? Because you know, that shed looked like it had two doors on it, so it could have points. Could nothing with track, and in this bit here there could be rods for points. Could have been anything but that's sort of time team finding that, you know, so you might be thinking, how long was this bit of railway, you know, for, you know, it's quite a few inches, you know, it's quite a big, 7-lamb engines are quite biggies, you know, they're almost ratty size, but a bit smaller. And I might add that it was an American styled engine, but the tender was your motor, and there was big chain gear from your tender into your main engine to run it. But so I've contacted 7-lamb locomotive builders. They still exist today in 2021, and they've told me a bit about what the engine ran at Fleetwood. What was a 7-lamb Rio Grande, Now this was quite a popular engine with 7 lamb builders. You know, it was, I think they did 24 altogether. And the actual engine, what was at Fleetwood, had quite a bit of an interesting history because it's moved around a lot. And with original information, before we contacted 7 Lamb, we were told it got scrapped. But from a bit of TE detective work, I found it and it still exists, but it's not in the shape it used to look like. So this is what 7 Lamb have told us about the Rio Grande and what it is and what it does and how it operates. The locos were either built, so the Rio Grande locos were either built with a diesel or petrol engine in the tender, and this drives a hydraulic motor on the loco which drives the wheels for a big drivetrain connected to cogs on the driving wheel axles. The 7 Lamb Rio Grande locos were designed to look like a Denver and Rio Grande C16, a 280 steam loco. And they were roughly built, C16s were roughly built late 1800s with big, great looking American steam engines, massive looking things. And so 7 Lamb looked at them and went, right, we can build that in narrow gauge form. So they built 24 of them. But how they did them, they built 2 different versions. So 7 Lamb built 24 Rio Grande locos, as I just said. There was a Mark 1 and Mark 2. The difference was the Mark 1 locos were made to look like a coal burning engine with a stovepipe chimney, or as Americans' cousins, hey, over there would say, a shotgun stack with a modern style electric headlamp. While the Mark IIs were designed to look like a wood-burning loco with a balloon stack and a large acetylene style headlamp. So they did 24, and there were various Mark 1s and Mark 2s, but they could build them in any gauge, ranging from 9.5 to 18.5 inches. So you could get quite a big inch, that's bigger than 15, what we're looking at today. But the standard specifications, so like the industry standard engine, came in black and silver livery with a 278 running number and a Ford 1600cc petrol engine. Now our engine, the Fleetwood engine, didn't actually get made for Fleetwood, it got made for Blackpool Zoo originally. So when it was ordered in 1972, and I think it was built in 1972, it went to Blackpool Zoo, and then in 75 it went to Fleetwood, and it was a Mark 1 engine, so it was the coal burning style Rio Grande engine, and it was the only it was 7 Lamb's third ever Rio Grande built, and it was actually 7 Lamb's first Rio Grande 15-inch gauge engine. So when it went to Fleetwood in 1975, it stayed there until the line closed in June 1982. It was then advertised in the World's Fair newspaper as a 2,200cc diesel hydraulic with an engine of unknown make. So sometime between the loco arriving at Blackpool Zoo in 1972 and leaving Fleetwood in 1982, it had been re-engined from a 1600 petrol to a 2,200cc diesel hydraulic by a mystery person. In 1983, the loco appeared at the Port Erroll Railway, Cruden Bay, Grampian, and then in 1984 it went to the West Buchan Railway, Grampian. That's up on the east coast of Scotland, that is, if I remember rightly. This line closed in 1985, so it went back to 7 Lamb, where it was rebuilt with a British Leyland 1800cc diesel engine. In October 1986, it went to the Oakwood Park Railway in Wales and was renamed Lindy Lou in 1989. In 1998, it was running as a 080 instead of the original 280. The engine is still at Oakwood Park, but is languishing without its tender. So is it possible, but it's out of order? So some of you might know out there, and just comment below if you know what's happening with that engine. But there's recent footage and pictures, I think 2018, I think it's the latest we can get, of it sat in the station at Oakwood Park, what's a big theme park in Wales, and it sat with another 7-lamb Rio Grande engine. I think it's a Mark 1, but it was the 9th engine to be built. So there's 2 7-lamb engines at Parkwood, and there's actually a third, but that's actually started on a diesel, but we won't go into that. It's not just one narrow gauge railway in Fleetwood, they have 2. And the other one's a 10-inch, and it's like a head shunt. It's just like a one straight bit, and I don't know if that had a shed, but we're going to go and look at something what's still there, just like the shed for this line here. There was still something what's very significant on 10-inch line. We're going to have a look, and it's over there actually. We'll have to walk across the golf course. TE always has a golf ball on him because TE here goes walking on beach up our way, and it's near a golf club, and I always find a few golf balls. So this is a Cumbrian ball. It's actually got dots on because it's been a training ball, and this is a green, and I'm just gonna, I should have a club, but I'm just gonna, there you go. Wonder how long was the last time when a ball landed on that bit of green there. There's the hole actually. Oh, just missed. Well, that's the hole there. But anyway, we're digressing. Let's get back to what we're here for. So, just to my right here, up along this big embankment and these edges, in this area here was the station for the 10 1/4 gauge railway in the 1950s. And there's a picture here of the station, and it had like white fences up either side. And I've got, this is what I'm come here to tell you, extra information, what I didn't know last time in me notes. The Fleetwood has seen 2 miniature railways since the war, and there's a 10 1/4 gauge one, what was in the 1950s, and then obviously in the 60s and 70s, they didn't have a miniature railway to the 15-inch period. So this was very early Fleetwood miniature railway activity, what's all gone. And there's only one sign of what we said early on about the bridge, but I'm going to tell you even more about the bridge. So the railway, there's two sides of the stories how it was built, and there's one comment that said someone from Wales wanted to build it, but they had it funded by Randolph Turpin, who was a lightweight boxing champion, and he was like the world's title, a bit like today we have Tyson Fury, who was the same kind of guy, but he lost his title to the American Sugar Ray Robinson. So he funded it. But then there's another story that a family, Mr. Dove, who was from Derbyshire, used to come and stay in the Fairhaven Hotel, and he built it. So there's 2 different stories. But when you were going to build this 10 1/4 gauge railway, the council ummed and ahed about it for ages. I think it was like 2 years they ummed and ahed about it. And what it was to do with is some of the councillors and the people on the council lived in these houses across the road. They lived along there, and obviously this railway would be along this wall here, but you know, they're up there, you can't see it. 10 1/4 gauge, you can't see it, but if there was steam, no, we don't want that on our front step. It's not what we want, you know. And they'd probably be proper in tweed kind of looking councillors back in 1950s. There wouldn't be today's council, but even though today's council we still have problems, but back then it'd probably be even more kernels of pipe smoking what lived up there. So no, you can't have that. So for 2 years they went backwards and forwards trying to build this little miniature railway, and eventually the council said, all right, okay, yeah, you can have it. But then they still had problems with the council. Is what we'll show you actually down at the bridge, and when we get down there I'll tell you what the problem was there. I think we'll get engine stoked up and we'll depart down this wall and to the little bridge, and we'll tell you more then. So this is one of the last remains of the 10 1/4 gauge railway, and so when the council opened it, well, the council give the go-ahead, they still were umming and ahhing about this structure. What's the little footpath bridge, and it's also a bit of a road as well. The original plans was to turn this into a railway shed. So I don't know if they had 2 engines under here, or was it an engine and a couple of, like, coaches. It's very small, but it's only a 10 1/4 gauge engine and coaches anyway, so it makes sense. And the council said, no, you can't have it. And I think the railway even tried to sort of push the boundaries a bit, and they started to build the shed before the council even said no, because on this side there's nothing on that side, but on this side there's one little hinge left, and that's where the gates would have been. And there's a picture I can show you of those gates too, on the picture when the engine was running. So they actually did get gates on it. The council won't let them do it, unfortunately. They couldn't use it as a shed. So I would have thought even in the 1950s they couldn't leave stuff out overnight. So either at that end, or the end up where the other station was, there must have been a shed somewhere to keep the engines in. But the original idea, this was meant to be the 10 1/4 gauge engine shed. So yeah, the council said yes to the railway, but no to the engine shed. It's about right for the council, that is. So I'm going to go and take you up onto the road to show you where a picture was taken of this line when it was back in its heyday, and this little bridge is on it. So we're going to try and recreate it. So I think, yeah, about here is that original photos taken from, probably on these very railings what I'm holding, and that's about there, I think. So we're going to walk up the path on this side and walk up to where the line finishes, and we're also going to try and find an information board what I read online where it actually tells you about a couple of the engines that ran on the 10 1/4 gauge. So let's see if we can actually find it. So I've got to the journey's end, to the end of the line. Well, it used to be the line, and over there's a 15-inch shed just behind there. And as you look along here, you can actually see if you can really see the shape of the grass on camera like you can here in person, you can actually see the lay of the line. It's actually, you can see the cutting of it. It's actually still informed in the grass. You might not be able to see it on camera, but I can see it here. It's still, you can actually, if we turned up tomorrow with a few men and a few pickaxes and shovels and a little digger, we could put a railway back in there tomorrow, because the bed of it's still there. So I've just spied behind camera walking up, but I think I found a blue sign with maybe where the engine, it tells you about the engines. But yeah, this is the other end, so I would have thought there might have been a little station in, there could have been a shed for the engines. Who knows, because I don't have any photo evidence of this end of the line with stations or sheds or anything like that. I've only got photo evidence of the bridge and the station at the other end near the lake. So, but we'll go and have a look on that blue sign and see if it's got the engines on. Oh, here we go, I found it. Miniature trains were a feature in the 50s with the steam-powered Winston Churchill and the diesel-driven Texas Ranger. But I'm trying to find a photo. There's photos along here. Gardens. There's a lake. No, maybe it's around here. Oh yeah, look at this, I found it. Winston Churchill was one of the miniature locomotives on the Fleetwood seafront. Look, there it is, it's getting loaded down from the road. That looks like where the station end was, where we were before, up near the lake. Oh, it was really good that. We managed to find a bit of history in an image what I'd actually found online. It was actually on this board, but told me online that that board was there, so it's a good job we came back and found that. So I got an idea of what the locomotives really look like on that 10.25 inch gate. It's really good, that is. I enjoyed that. Coming back from car, engine sheds up there, past those points, got my tape measure, and we'll get back down here. The line goes through here. It's like a little path now, secret garden. The line would have gone down here. Well, it wouldn't have made that noise because it's probably, I think 7 Lamb engines are actually combustion engines, they're not steam. And it would come to this crossing here, and after I've measured it, we're actually going to go on beyond and see what else we can find. But, get down here, get cameraman down here. Oh. This is a Rolson. These are a Poundland special. You know, a TE family member works in Poundland and get a good deal with TE's family, you see. And you measure from about there to about there, and that's the inch, because that's where the flange sort of runs along of the engine. So we'll get in here. Oh yeah, look at that, 15 inch. Look at that there. You might have to come around the back of me so you can see it in like. You can do quite a lot with a 15 inch because it's a useful engine, you know, a useful engine side. You can carry passenger and you can actually do a bit of mixed freight on a 15 inch. It's very useful gauge. You know, 12. You know, if this was a 12 inch there on that one, it's there. It won't be very useful. Only be useful for passenger. You know, you couldn't do a bit of freight on it. Yeah, you don't realise that. 3 more inches, it just makes all the difference. There you go. It's a 15 inch gauge. See, TE brings his toolbox everywhere, and JJ the MGZR, because you never know when you're going to break down in a Rover. So I've got this tape measure, the courtesy of a TE member, and we're going to go on up there before the sun really goes down on TE and see what else we can find in the dark. I have to get my torch out. So there we go, we've measured it. We'll go and have a look see if we can find any more. And to be honest, this has been shut a long time, and they've rebuilt this path here. And you see, it's got a bit of a gradient on it. I don't think a 7 Lamb engine would go up that gradient. It would have been more of a cutting, I would have thought. And then see that hedge line? That was probably route at railway, but we'll have a look anyway, because you never know, you might find something. Alright, let me just look round the back of this hedge here. It's too lumpy. It could only be along here. Quite a good embankment if it was, but I think they've built it up. We're into sand now. I tell you what, we'll go to the end of this hedgerow up here, just have a look, and I think that's probably as far as it would have gone, I would have thought. Down at bottom of the country, at Romley Ave and Dynchurch 15 inch railway, it actually runs along the coast, and it's actually on like a shaly, sandy base. That's hard. I think that's probably a lot, you know, because it goes off into a ditch there, and it gets lost in the golf course and the sort of the edge of the estuary. You know, this is a long time ago, and climates change, and people, the humans change. You know, the generations change, so they could have been ploughing this up and doing whatever they're doing with it. So it could have just got completely bulldozed into landscape, and you won't even know it was there, except that crossing. Now there's a footpath there that goes along what runs some car park in that dip. I thought it was a ditch, but it's actually a footpath. Yeah, right. So when you went on it, was it smooth, or was it like a marsh, a land, you know, of all sand? All right. So Right, so it was bumpy then, right? So I thought it would have been ploughed into land, and you know, you can't really see where it is. So obviously it was like what I'm stood on today. Oh right, that's interesting. Yeah, because it's just all got hedges on it now, and it's got sand and grass, and it's all a bit up and down and all over the place. So, all right. So in the 70s when you went on it, yeah, right, yeah, 70, yeah. So when you went on it in the 70s, that's when it was still like this today. Oh, that's interesting. Right, I best lovely and leave you, whatever they say, and get back to filming. Cause cameraman's looking at me. Oh, Lily Law's coming past on the other side. Oh, it's getting dark in Fleetwood. I need to get out of here. I need to get back to me Cumbrian nature. You know, I'm like a fish out of water down here. Anyway, I'll catch you up in a bit, and take care, and I'll see you later. Bye, bye. Oh, just talking with one of T.E.'s uncles there, who came on this line in the 1970s, and as a little lad, and he said it was quite a bumpy up and down over shop line. So this is probably quite similar to what it used to be, and it probably shifted a lot then. They probably had a lot of trouble keeping it intact because of all the land moving and all the sand. And I was just, when we were walking up here, I think the actual bed of the line is in that hedgerow there, or along this sort of like raised up bit. So along that hedgerow all the way to that crossing where that little golf shed is, I think this is the line. So you can still see where the line is. And always, this is a TE almost factual interlude here, but it's not quite a factual interlude. Railway lines, when they go disused railway lines, they always get trees growing on them. I don't know what happens. Something in the ground, it must be the oil or the creosote in the sleepers. It makes trees grow like wildfire. And there's a hedge here, so it might have grown up on rails. You know, it's like a real railway line. But I don't know, it could be that, you know. That's something I picked up looking at disused railway lines over the years. You always get a lot of the trees. Lostock Hall was a prime example. Did you see all the trees on that yard? What grew up, you know, when we went to find that coal tower, that was all grown up. So yeah, I think this has done the same. It could have been planted by council and just made it nice, make it look like a golf course, but it might not be. Was the end of today's video, looking at the unique but lost railways of Fleetwood. 2 lines, and we actually found something as well what's made TE's day, that hasn't it? We've got my measuring tape, not every day that happens, but I think we've learnt a lot today with TE, and we've dug up some archaeological, whatever it's called, history is a big word, what T you can't say there, archaeological dig kind of thing. Yeah, there you go, I've got it right then. And if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you give us a comment, because I'm sure a few locals will watch this, and you know, of this neck of woods, and also me fellow fans what love a good TE video, get your comments below. Oh, that's great. There was a guy in a pedal bike then, a pedal bike, with a little Briggs & Stratton engine on it. Wow, that's pretty cool. TE and a friend from school used to do that with his BMX, and he put engine up. Anyway, I'm digressing. That was pretty good, that was. Anyway, give me a fat like and a comment, like I've just said, and give me a subscribe, because I'm over 1,000 now, and we're going up and up. Proper showbiz is happening on the TE channel. And if you want to come and find it, I've told you where to come and have a good nosy. And you can feel the history, and you can go and look at that line down there. And remember to click that big bell. Ding!